Today's episode is all about on-site conversion rate optimization, or CRO, and we're going to be learning how we can use CRO to influence repeat purchases. I've got the pleasure of having an absolute expert in this space, Will Laurenson, a conversion rate optimization consultant, and really one of the soundest minds that I know in this space. So, Will, big thanks for joining the show today. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks. Thank you for having me.
Of course, really stoked to dive into today's discussion. I candidly know very little about CRO, so I'm super stoked to just kind of pick your brain and also just kind of learn more about what you're up to. So, could you just share with our listeners what's your background and how do you help merchants?
Yeah, sure. So, just quickly, my background, it was actually in startups originally, just kind of general marketing roles. Startups, you do a bit of everything, right? So, what I found I think it was about 3 companies in a row, actually. The marketing team was handed a big budget and told, go and acquire customers, grow the company, right? That's your job. And it doesn't really work like that, obviously, as I'm sure everyone's aware. We were getting good results on the advertising side, good click-through rates, good engagement, whatever, but it wasn't translating into purchases. It wasn't translating into customers who actually stuck with us. So that obviously got quite frustrating. And I'd say, looking at the data, we've obviously got a product issue or a website issue, not a marketing issue, what they considered marketing, right? Not an acquisition issue. So I kind of started to push myself more into the product side of the business and work closely with developers to say, right, these are the things we need to fix, right? This is the feedback we're getting through from customers. This is the activity we can see in the app or on the website. This is, it's either bad behavior or it's just people aren't getting to the good behavior. So how do we focus on getting them there by improving the product on the website? And then I moved through a couple of roles. I was head of conversion in my last role at quite a big gaming company in the UK. And then, 2019, I decided to leave there and go out on my own to work with e-commerce brands on conversion rate optimization.
Love it. That's as you say, go out and make more sales happen. You mentioned that just at the beginning of that. I kind of laugh at that because I think it's it's funny that really there's so many things I think that can influence how folks buy, and a lot of times like we always focus as marketers on the email campaigns that we're sending or the SMS campaigns or the paid ads, but I mean like the actual website experience I feel like is so critical to all of that, and I feel like we're kind of can be an afterthought for a lot of marketers in general. So I'm super stoked to get to pick your brain on that and learn more about that side of the house. And candidly, well, as I mentioned, I know very little about CRO, so I'm going to put on my beginner's hat today and ask you some questions, really just to kind of understand a little bit more about how we can really think about this and influencing repeat business. So can you just explain to kind of start, like how can good CRO really positively impact repeat purchase behavior?
Yeah, cool. So I suppose there's 2 parts to it. There's the kind of traditional CRO aspect, what everyone views CRO as, which is that on-site experience, getting that conversion, right? So obviously there might be a bit of, well, how does CRO affect retention if it's all around, once people are on the site, right? But the key thing is we need to convert people for the right reason, right? We need to make sure they are absolutely convinced that this is the right product for them. It's the right business to buy from. Try and reduce as much anxiety as possible with that purchase so that they're not immediately thinking, once they hit that purchase button, complete purchase, they're not thinking, was that the right decision? Is this really going to help? Or have I just wasted some money? Better check that returns policy to see, to make sure I can send it back if it doesn't work or I don't like it. We're just trying to avoid as much of that as possible. And obviously, if you get that right, and you've convinced someone this product is going to help them. Obviously, then we're relying on the product doing its job, but assuming your product is good as well, that person's going to be thinking, cool, I love this product. I used it because I was convinced it was right for me. That should then lead to them coming back, right? In theory, that should be enough to say, this person's convinced with the product. They've now got the product. They've used it. They've liked it. They should just come back and buy again. So that's kind of the traditional CRO side. That's the dealing with anxiety, answering all the questions and concerns on a website, and then motivating them to say, look, this is how your life is going to be better off once you get this product in your hand. So if you can do all that right, you get the purchase. What tends to go wrong is where, and we can go into kind of mistakes and things a bit more later. What I see go wrong is where brands focus on apps and little hacks and these little things which they don't really do. A lot of them don't do anything to really touch on the anxiety piece and the motivation piece.
Mhm.
They're literally there to just kind of push people through the journey and get them to make that purchase. And then a lot of the time, it's it might be social proof. Some of these social proof widgets which say, "Oh, 7 people have purchased this in the last few days." You might see a tiny little nudge on conversion with that, but unless you're selling tickets or something that is actually limited, it's not really going to do much for you. Or they'll have upsell widgets and things which can be good if you set them up correctly, but they can also have a negative impact. But people don't test them. They set them up and then they see in the report that this app has driven $10,000 in revenue this month, and they go, cool, okay, that's great. What they don't look at is how many of those customers came back, and did this actually affect the conversion rate negatively? So did you lose $20,000 in revenue through lost conversions because of this app? A great example is post-purchase apps. I've had some great experiences with them where they've worked really well. I've also had some experiences where, you look at the dashboard and you're seeing a great take rate, great revenue,
Mhm.
and then customer services comes along and goes, "What is this? Like, what's going on? We're getting so many people saying they don't want this product. They've ordered it by mistake, didn't know what they were doing, whatever, and canceling the orders." But that doesn't feed back into the dashboard. So like I said, there's some apps and things out there which people just stick on the website, hope they work, but it's not really getting to the core problem and the real issues that we need to deal with to try and convince someone to make the purchase.
Yeah.
Um,
So much
sorry,
to
go on.
unpack. Sorry. So I would say so much to unpack there as you mentioned that. It's like amazing stuff there. And I think like one of the themes I'm hearing is like kind of this like shiny object syndrome that kind of we fall into of like, like we look at that next best kind of thing that's going to, promise to, increase on-site conversions, like displaying social proof and reviews and all these things, which we know can, help, but it's like, you're not getting at that core problem. You're not really fundamentally alleviating that buyer's remorse on your PDPs, on various parts of your site. There's just a lot of things that really can kind of like become bottlenecks in a lot of ways at really solving that issue.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at all these Shopify apps, they all say improve conversion rates by this amount, improve your average order value by this amount, improve your retention rates or repeat purchase. But those are just averages, right? That's average across all their customers. So I bet if you could dive into the data of those customers and really kind of analyze them, vast majority of the winners are going to be people who have put in an actual strategy in place to use that app properly.
Mhm.
And all the losers are going to be people who have just added the app, very quickly set it up, and then just left it to run. But they've not thought, how is this actually affecting the customer journey? It's like upsell apps, right? You might put an upsell on, but you put the same upsell on for every single product.
Mhm.
It's just there, and you think some people will take it. That's fine. But when you start to say, well, if they've bought this product, then offer them this product or this upgrade. When you put the effort in on some of these apps, then they start to work from you.
Absolutely.
And
I
it's also on that shiny object syndrome. It's also really easy to install, isn't it?
Yeah.
Instead of thinking, well, why do all this research? Why do all this testing when we can just plug an app in that promises us 30%? It's really easy to fall into that trap of saying, yeah, go on then, why not? Just get it done.
Yeah, it can be super easy to just throw an app into the equation and hope that it's going to solve the problem. And while I think there's a bunch of amazing apps in the space, I think like having that strategy in place and also like having the fundamentals just really buttoned up across the board is like really the best place to start before you really introduce more to the mix. And I want to come back to those kind of mistakes and misconceptions in a second, but I know in our pre-interview we talked about like this big three framework, and you kind of frame that for me. And can you explain to our audience like what is the big three framework when we think about CRO, and what are some of the secrets that can help to maybe influence getting folks to really then come back and buy again?
Absolutely. So I was there was one other thing I wanted to mention, which actually fits in with this anyway. It's about the real retention piece and how CRO affects retention, because conversion rate optimization is not just that initial conversion, not just the conversion. It's whatever the customer wants to do, how can we make it better? Right. So that includes getting the product in their hands. Really, CRO can be, what do people think of our packaging? What do people think of the product itself, the instructions that come with it? Are we actually activating people properly? So back to your question. So the three things that I focus on with every client are usability, which is, how does the website work? Does the website actually help people find what they're looking for and help them buy it? Or does it get in the way? Is it tough to use? I've actually got an example later I want to talk about. We've got anxiety, which is all the questions and concerns someone might have about your products and your business. Right? You have to deal with both of those. And then the third piece, which tends to be the most powerful, if you get it right, is motivation. So are you actually excited about the prospects of owning this product? Do you genuinely think it's going to help you? Or has it simply answered your questions and you're like, yeah, okay, it's cool, but it's not wow. Right? It's why we always talk about benefits, not features, really. Now, you do need both. Benefits, not features, doesn't work. It's that because you use them differently. You still need to see the features of a product, right? I've actually, one of the examples I want to show later. So I've got a TV on my on my other screen. I need to know the features of this TV, right? What are the dimensions of it? What's the screen size? Is it HD, 4K? Whatever. Is it smart? Is it an EU plug, a UK plug, a US plug? All these sort of details I have to know, right? They're not exciting, but I have to know them to be able to make that purchase. The exciting bit is, you might talk about how you can experience cinema quality experiences just at home, right? So it's that kind of, why would you really want to spend $5,000 on a TV? It's because you're going to have the best viewing experience. So yeah, these are the three areas I focus on. And while mainly I do it for conversion, right, on-site conversion. So yeah, going back to usability, it's, is your website easy to browse? Have you got search in place? If I land on a product from an advert, for example, and I decide it's not quite right for me, how easily can I go and find the right product? Anxiety, generally it's questions and concerns. Is this the right product for me? Does it fit my requirements? And that could be, like I mentioned, like dimensions and things like that. But it could also be, if it's food-based, it could be, what are the ingredients of this product? Allergens. But also some people just like to know all the ingredients to look at how kind of natural these products are, or whether they're full of stuff they don't want to consume. But there's also the business side of it. So what happens if something goes wrong with the product? Can I return it easily? Is it obvious how to contact the business? Right. So we've put with one client actually recently, we've tested adding their phone number to the navigation, and I can't remember the exact number for the increase, but I think it's about a 15 to 20% increase in conversion rate.
Wow.
For them. It makes sense for them, for their product, but that's an amazing improvement just from putting a phone number on there.
That's incredible.
Right? People want to know how to contact a business, so that if they do have problems, they can deal with it. Obviously, in their case, some people might actually be phoning them, right? So they might be using the phone, speaking to someone, having their questions answered, and then making the purchase. But in other cases, I speak to loads of customers all the time. People just want to be able to see an email address, a phone number, live chat, something like that, so they can say, cool, if something goes wrong, this is going to be an easy company to contact. They haven't got, one of those awful, like, knowledge-based chatbot things that does its best not to put you in touch with anyone. And yeah, the motivation piece, does it excite you? Can you see how your life is going to be better with this product in your hands or in your house? Or are you thinking, cool, all right, does the job, but so what? So do 5 other products. Why is this one special?
Sure. I think that, that framework of usability, anxiety relief, and then, motivation. Those three things kind of all like I'm getting themes of like kind of just generally customer experience. And we talk to, at my role, I talk to a lot of customer experience leaders, a lot of retention leaders at companies, and they're all kind of using this kind of like 1,000 steps ahead of their customer kind of mentality. And like all these things really do that, being able to convey helpful information, to be able to, make it that it's easy to get in touch with the brand, to be able to have things that feel like relevant to them as they're searching and making it easy to find those things. Those are all things that like, on the onset, like you kind of, it feels table stakes in some ways, but like these are fundamentals that just have to be, consistent across the site. And one of my questions for you around the like kind of, so you talked a lot about copy, I think, and kind of like displaying that on like PDPs, for example. I'm curious if you have any thoughts around, is short copy better? Is long copy better? Is there no hard and fast rule for these things? How would you kind of like consider approaching that? I know this can totally vary, but like, is there like yeah, like a best practice almost for that?
Right. It's a difficult. How to answer this? Personally, I like short copy, but there needs to be a lot of it. Right. So what I mean by that is I would rather have bullet points, just getting the key information across. Oh, not exactly bullet points, but short sentences and bullet points, getting the features across, getting maybe some use cases or benefits across. But I'm happy for you to have, pages and pages and pages of content for me to scroll through to get all the information I need and just answer all my questions. Other people like to read, kind of short paragraphs of text. That's absolutely fine. I think the really key thing to it is it worth having this copy on the page?
Yeah.
Right. Is it contributing to relieving anxiety and stoking motivation? Right. If it's not doing one of those two, it's pointless.
Sure.
It's getting in the way, and that's going to make people stop reading. And some people might just stop and buy. Some people might stop and leave. So I think, one of the examples, actually, I can show it later, actually. I think their product page is quite long. And, I always get people saying, oh, product page is too long. People don't scroll that far. That's actually a really common thing I come across.
Mhm.
People looking at their heat maps and their scroll maps and saying, well, it's pointless having this information down there because no one reads it. And really the answer to that is, or the response to that is, why aren't people reading it? Why aren't they moving down the page? It's probably because they don't feel like there's any reason to. So that's where the problem is. That doesn't mean try and pack above the fold with as much information as possible. It means we've obviously not caught their interest well enough with the above fold content, and that's why they're not scrolling down and seeing it. But also, I think if you put some event tags in GTM, you will probably see that the more people scroll, the better the conversion rate for those people is, because they consume that information. So really, the goal is, how do you get more people scrolling?
Yeah, that's key. How do you get more people scrolling? How do you provide relevant information? And I think it's asking why throughout the kind of, whole kind of process too, of like, is this valuable? I think, that's kind of my thought has always been, it's okay to have long form copy, but if it really adds value, you're not just
Yeah.
putting it there to fill a page, so to speak. Some of the best PDPs that I've seen, have 2 or 3 sentences, but they're really effective. But then I'm also
Yeah.
like, I'm a reader myself, and if it's valuable, I'm going to read that information as well.
And it depends on the product a lot as well, right? If it's a pair of shoes, I just need a few bullet points on what the material is, maybe how to care for it, stuff like that, and some pictures, right? And that's pretty much it. The example that I can show later, the one I said was quite a long product page. I assume the reason they've made a product page that long, which kind of makes sense to me, is because their product needs explanation, because it's it's a consumable product as well. But it requires a bit of explanation about why their product is better than the alternatives that they're kind of fighting against. So in that case, it makes sense. But you're right. Sometimes you just need a few bullet points. There's no point adding content to the page just for the sake of trying to bulk out a page.
Sure. Well, while we're on it, let's pull up the page. Actually, let's take a quick look
Yeah,
of.
I've mentioned it a few times. So
Yeah.
it's actually this one. So they've been advertised. I think they're advertising really heavily on TikTok at the moment. And someone I know bought them. So I had a look at this. But if we're going to shop now, so some bits I don't like about this experience, some bits I do. So they're currently assuming that I'm a new customer. So I must have cleared my cache at some point not too long ago, because they forced me onto this trial page,
Mhm.
which is absolutely fine. But they start off with, obviously they've got some pictures of it, and some of the pictures include you know kind of selling points, right? They've got a picture showing all the nutritional value, and then it's just kind of the standard, looks really cool pictures. You've got nutrition info there. You've got what the point of this product is. But then you scroll down the page, we've got mushroom superpowers, why people start with this stuff, what it is, the ingredients, a bit more on kind of the power of mushrooms, reviews, how to use it. Their rainbow dust versus coffee, which is their big kind of don't drink coffee, drink this instead, and a pretty big FAQ as well. So these are maybe some of this stuff they could address further up, but it's just there's a lot of content there, but actually when you look at it, it's all kind of bullet pointed.
Mhm.
Well, maybe not that exactly, but there's not huge amounts of information to take in at each stage. But yeah, it makes sense for them because, well, as we saw here, right? Are these ingredients safe? How does this stuff work? How will I feel? How much should I take? These are all questions that need to be answered. Because if you don't, so for example, these ones, in fact, these top two, right? Are these magic mushrooms? So that's immediately someone thinking, is this psychedelic? Is it legal?
Sure.
That sort of thing. So that's got to be answered. So yeah, I just thought, they've done a pretty good job here, I think. One thing I did like when I purchased was they actually had a little thing here, which was how do subscriptions work? And you could click on that. Yeah, it's not there anymore. You could click on that and it would just have like 3 bullet points, which was like restock every 30 days, cancel whenever you like, and might have been the discount or something like that.
This is an awesome example, I think, to really point out here, kind of having, it's really clear where to focus on each of these different sections of the page too, which I think is just another fantastic way to keep the consumer engaged as they're learning more about the product. They're considering, is this the right product for me? I love having those FAQs there as well, and being able to like have them relevant to this specific product here as well. Like we do this similarly at Wonderman with our tracking pages and like addressing FAQs as customers have that post-purchase experience. And like these FAQs definitely can also, I'm sure, deflect potential either site bounces or having to reach out to validate those things too. So just a really fantastic example here.
Like I'm also the sort of person who I might read the top section of the page and go, okay, this looks quite cool, and then I'll just come straight down to the FAQ and just try and find my answers there, because I'm impatient. I don't want to read loads of copy. I don't need to read about each individual ingredient. I just want to know, are they magic mushrooms? Does it come with a scooper? These sort of questions. As soon as I have the answers to those, I can make a decision.
Love it.
Yeah, I think this is quite good.
100%. And to kind of pull this back a little bit and kind of think more about, as folks are listening in who might be, thinking about how they can apply this to their business. And like, say, I've got I started on Shopify. Maybe I'm having my first few sales. I don't really know anything about conversion rate optimization on my site. Like, what are some of the core things? Obviously, we talked about this big 3 framework, but if I was looking to add things to my PDPs to just get people more engaged, like, are there any sort of like best practice things that you would say are table stakes in putting on a PDP?
Yeah, and I think I can probably use this page as an example as well, actually. Images, super important. Obviously, particularly if it's clothing, jewelry, anything like that. People want to see images, a lot of images. They want to see people wearing clothing, wearing shoes, whatever. For products like this, these sort of images work really well. Like what's in it. I think there was another one here, wasn't there? Yeah, this one. I mean, I don't particularly like genuinely tastes great, because that's it's just like their opinion. But these sort of explanation images work really well. You see it a lot on Amazon, right? It's normally fourth or fifth image on Amazon will be some sort of annotated image showing product dimensions or whatever. So that's really important. I would get some key info up here. Why is this product good for them? Why should they buy it? Kind of capture their attention at the top, and then worry about really selling it to them later. I do find this sort of stuff works really well. So just buy the call to action, having same day shipping, 30-day money back guarantee tends to work really well. But then it comes down to that individual business, right? I don't want people listening to this or watching this to be thinking, cool, I need to structure my product page like this page.
Sure.
Because it's not necessarily going to work for you. It does depend on the product. So the next thing I would suggest doing is do some customer research. So it could be send out an email survey to people. If you're early on, I would always do qualitative, not quantitative. Quantitative has its place. Depending on your questions, you might want to use it just to kind of filter some of the answers, but it's the qualitative research that's really going to give you the help you need. Trying to think of an example for these guys, but right. So a common survey that I normally see is, why haven't you made a purchase yet? And they give options, and it's normally things like price, don't understand the product, bought something else, whatever. So many people pick price because it's the easy answer to give.
Sure.
When actually that's not necessarily the case. I actually did a survey for a client recently. The first question we asked was, ignoring price, what is the main reason you did not purchase? And we still got loads of people. I think something like 20% of responses were price. So people couldn't really ignore that. But the second question was, what is the most important thing to you about this product? And that's where we got the real feedback, the real information that has to be on that product page. And it was related to, so in this particular product, it was, how easy is it to clean? Is it dishwasher safe? And then there were a few other things like, how much volume does it have? So that's what we need to say. We need to take that information and go, cool, are we talking about the product being dishwasher safe and easy to clean on that product page? If not, let's get some information on there. Let's make it key. We are actually running a test about that, and it's working for them. But yeah, I would say go do some research, speak to customers, get some on Zoom as well. What I tend to do when I send out these surveys, I will also end the survey with, if you're happy for a member of the team to reach out to you further, please leave your email address. And even from non-purchasers, you can get quite a decent number of people who say, yep, cool, I'm happy to chat. So then you can get them on Zoom or Google Meet, and just talk to them about the products. What are they trying to achieve? What information is key to them? You want to obviously avoid yes/no questions, and say, and it can be a little bit of an art, because it can be very easy to give a leading question, which the person's obviously going to say yes to. But you might ask, for these guys, Space Goods, you might ask, what flavors of product do you like? Instead of asking, would you prefer chocolate or banana or vanilla or something? Just get them to tell you which one they actually want. And the same thing applies to a lot of products. You could ask, what materials do you prefer? That sort of thing. Just leave it open, take loads of notes, record it if possible, if they let you, and use that feedback to think, right, are we actually answering these questions on the website? If not, let's try and do it. I wouldn't worry too much about layout, structure, design and stuff if that's not your kind of specialty, your focus. Just try and get the information on the page and see how people react to it.
100%. I think all those things you're talking about too, like speaking with your customers, getting out, actually hearing how they describe your product too. Like I've heard a lot of merchants actually just ask like their customers to describe what their product is and how it helps them. And then taking that qualitative information and going back to their PDPs, to even like different parts of the website, their marketing copy and in general, and then injecting that into that messaging to really actually speak the language of the user to address their problems, concerns. And I think all this rolls back into sort of your big three framework, usability, reducing anxiety, building motivation, all these different things. So I think going to the customer is such an underrated thing. And it can, even if you get on the phone and talk to, just a few of your customers, I think it's so valuable to be able to actually hear the other end of it too. And actually maybe even see things that you might be overlooking too. Like I've heard stories of even companies who were selling products, the features, benefits that weren't even relevant to their customers. Like, like if you're selling a supplements, kind of product, but actually people use it to just generally, be healthy, they're not using it for performance, different things along those lines. Like you can really start to see just insights into your business, I think generally. So that's a great call out there.
I see it a lot. That voice of customer is so important. I do see it a lot where, like you say, that a website would be talking about benefits or even features that the customers don't care about.
Mm-hmm.
It's not how they talk about it. One example for these guys could be, right, they talk about focus, energy, and calm. I might be just thinking, I'm looking for an alternative to coffee.
Exactly.
I might not be thinking focus, energy, calm. That might not be how I describe how I feel when I want a coffee or when I drink coffee. I just want a replacement to coffee. So what these guys might find is if they might run some advertising around, avoid the coffee crash, use our product instead. You come to the website and it says a great alternative to coffee. I think they do have like zero jitters, zero crash, and they have this content further down the page. Coffee alternative like no other. That might be the only thing I care about, right? But you don't know until you speak to customers.
Sure.
I would say there are probably at least two really different audiences for these guys. It's the people who do want to focus and they want a drink which they think is going to help them really focus on work. And there's the other people who maybe they want a hot drink which isn't coffee.
I think that's all really, really valuable to think about too, as you sort of like, we think about like repeat purchases and what makes people come back and buy again. It's that they feel, this sort of like when they come to a product page, they come to the website, whatever it is, that like they're being spoken to, that this product is going to solve a need or like, a fill a hole in sort of their day-to-day lives. And then like, these are all things that like just generally have that compounding effect, I think too. So I love this example here, from Space Goods. This is great. Any other examples that you have to kind of pull up as we kind of wrap up on some of these examples here?
Yeah, sure. So I'll go through a couple really quickly. We've got, just going to get rid of my bookmark bar actually. We've got Orbit Skin, who, I don't know if this is an incredibly optimized website, but what I really like is you've got pick my set and it sends you into a quiz.
Love a quiz.
I think this works really well. You can just say, not sure, what's your top concern, looking tired. And then you've got the top recommended for you, but they're obviously also just going to push you the other products as well, aren't they?
Sure.
Here are all your options. And you might look at it and go, essential set, cool, bit cheaper. Looks like it contains similar products. Damage control set sounds quite good. So I might go, well, actually, that is what I want. So I think this is pretty good. Obviously, get a discount on a trial. And also, so one thing I would possibly look at testing for these guys is it's £39. I don't know if that's before or after that 30%, but it's shipped every 2 months. And normally subscriptions are monthly.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder if they're better off maybe positioning it as a price per month and saying it's only, what's that, $19.50 per month. That makes me think, okay, $19.50 a month, that's not a lot for skincare.
Sure.
like a skincare routine. So that's maybe something like they could look at testing. But the other one I wanted to show was AO.com. In fact, I'll show you the homepage as well. They're constantly testing. They're constantly doing some cool stuff on their website. So you literally got this tool on the homepage, which is, what are you looking for today? You fill in these, set your price, and it goes 112 products available. You search, you get their listing. Obviously, you've got the recommended, which is 15 grand. So I don't know. I'm not entirely sure what their recommendation is based on here, but if I click into a really, really cool feature, which I mentioned to you before we jumped on this, they have changed recently.
Mhm.
What they've realized is, so these are products that obviously a lot of websites sell. All their competitors will sell these products. They might have the odd exclusive. I really love this. I think it's so clever. Why would you highlight that text? What is the reason a user on your website would highlight the text, the product name? It's probably so that you can search it on Google and check prices on a load of other websites, right?
Sure.
So if I highlight that text, yeah. If I highlight the text, they come up with a price match pop up.
Wow.
So they've got a phone number on it, so give us a call. But all they're saying here is we have a price match. So they've obviously moved on from a different variant for this, because previously when I looked at it, they actually displayed prices on different websites. So they had about 5 or 6 competing websites. They had the prices on there. And I think, if I remember correctly, they did it as a bit of a grid thing, like a comparison grid. So it had the price, it had their shipping policy, returns policy, maybe a couple of other things. So they might have decided that doesn't work, and actually this is better. So yeah, I think it's the first time I've ever seen them kind of acknowledge that people are copying the product name to go and search it elsewhere. So they're trying to deflect that behavior.
I love that. I think that is such a cool feature to be able to, hopefully keep people on site, obviously not go shop around, browse around. If you sell products that, other, stores sell as well, to be able to keep folks on your site, remind them, hey, we do offer a price match. Even too, like, I'd be curious if a brand would ever want to experiment. A lot of brands sell on Amazon, other marketplaces too, like reminding like, hey, like, if you want to, shop here, shop D2C, like here's the awesome benefits that you get, or remind them of some of those things too. I think there could be some interesting potential tests to be even done there to keep folks, on the D2C side and not Amazon.
I did see something. I think it was John Ivanko who posted this on LinkedIn, talking about, because Amazon have launched their kind of pay with Amazon. Was it buy on Amazon, the Prime thing? I've seen this loads of times before, where someone will have on their website, shop on Amazon. You can buy it from us, or you can buy it from Amazon. And I've even seen it where the product is cheaper on Amazon. So it's like, why would I not buy it on Amazon, get the free shipping, pay a cheaper price, and you lose whatever percent in commission to them?
Sure.
And I'm sure it was an example he posted where he said, what you should do is you should have that button there. And when people click it or whatever, interact with it, it actually pops up and says, oh, sorry, this product is not available on Amazon for whatever reason. I can't remember the exact thing he did, but it was quite a clever idea. But I'm pretty sure it's his, so I'm going to credit him with it.
I'll credit the job.
I thought it was really good. And you could also go down the route of saying we don't sell on Amazon because they take 30% or whatever. We try and charge you the lowest amount we can. Whatever. You could play around with some messaging.
Lots of
on
things.
that, but
yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, the key thing, like you said, is trying to keep people on your site and avoid giving them that reason, which is why I thought previously AO, when they had the actual price comparison, that kind of almost worked for me, because if I can see that they're the cheapest price, I don't have to go to any other website. Yeah. Whereas this current version, where it just says we price match, I might still be tempted to go look to see if there is a cheaper price.
Sure.
Because also, I mean, I don't think I've ever actually used a price match offer from someone, but I don't want to buy something, sit on a website cheaper, and then have to get in touch with the company I bought from to say, oh, can you refund me 50 quid because
Mhm.
it's cheaper? I'd rather just go buy it on the cheaper website in the first place.
100%.
Um, yeah.
I think that's super insightful to be able to just look at an example like this and how it could apply to, to various D2C kind of like stores as well. I think, like some of the big takeaways that I think I've kind of gotten from this discussion, obviously, this big three framework, but also just making sure like you're, having the voice of the customer reflected, anticipating their moves that they're going to take, even looking at this with, price match. What is consumer typical behavior like? We want to get the best price on things. We want products that speak to us that are going to solve our needs. It's a lot of the fundamentals I think that good CRO, is, but it's like can be difficult, I think, at times to, continue to have that mindset, like continuing to add things, test things, optimize. It's an iterative process, I think, for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
I think as we kind of wrap up, I guess my last question for you, Will, I kind of have is, we've talked a lot about best practices, what you do and kind of how you think about the world. Is this something that I could do myself, CRO? Do I need to get help? And if I do need to bring in help, like when do you think is the right time, like in a brand's evolution, to bring in someone who's going to help with this type of stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think initially you can do it yourself, and obviously if you're big enough to bring in a team, but it can, it does become quite a big role in a company. Um, you know, it doesn't really work if you try and use part of your developer's time to do CRO, part of your designer's time. Ideally, if you're big enough to run a decent number of tests, you should have a dedicated designer, dedicated developer, and that's obviously where outsourcing it helps, because then you get kind of you get the time you need. You don't have to hire someone full time to do potentially a part time job. You can do a lot yourself because, like I said, you can do that research. You can speak to customers. You can start to change some copy on your website. I think once you get above 100,000 visitors a month, you can be A/B testing a pretty decent amount. As for bringing in external support, maybe a few 100,000 a month. I suppose the key thing is, are you going to get a return on it, on your investment?
Sure.
If you're a certain size where you're only going to be able to run 2 tests a month, maybe one on a product page, one on another page, it might be difficult to get an ROI back from an agency. But also, if your average order value is $1,000, then you are going to get that back. So it kind of depends a little bit. The one thing I'd say is just don't be wary of anyone who says we can guarantee you 30% conversion rate increase within X months, or whatever. We guarantee it. It just doesn't. You can't guarantee it because, especially in those early conversations, right? And that's where it happens mostly. People pitch it. They get on a sales call because this person said we'll get you 30% increase, and it's like, well, if I don't know what your current conversion rate is, and I don't know your audience, and I don't really know your products, how can I promise that? I got nothing to base that on. So just be wary of that.
Great call.
But yeah, I'd say 100,000 a month visitors, get some A/B tests running, and then I suppose just speak to some people like me, obviously, to see if it is the right time. Good agencies in whatever space will say no if it's not the right time and you're not in the right place.
100%. I think it's a really great kind of like cautionary tale to, not fall victim to is like over promising some of those things there. And then obviously to knowing, like there's a lot of factors, like you said, AOV being one of them, site traffic being another one of them, also just generally budgets too. If you have the room to invest and you want to play the long game with it, or you really just kind of want to get things up to a point and then, bring in help. So if I wanted to get in touch with you, well, where could I go to get in touch and really learn more about what you're up to?
Best place is LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I post a lot of content there. I have my own podcast, Customers Who Click. So go check that out. Maybe check my website, but I've got to be honest, I'm one of those people who my own website is not not the best place. So yeah, I'd say LinkedIn, and check out my podcast.
Awesome. Well, we'll link out to those in the show notes. I highly recommend you check out Will's podcast. A lot of great stuff there. I don't just say that because I was a guest on the podcast, but also
Yeah,
it's just a lot of great content and stuff that you're producing as well. So, well, I really appreciate the time today. I learned a lot. I think I, don't think I'm more, I'm hopefully progressing my CRO knowledge. Maybe I'm not so much a novice after this conversation, but super appreciate the time. And we'll have to have you on the show again really soon.
awesome. Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been great.